What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to continue our coverage over the X-Men, but now we pick up with X-Men issue number 34. Now with this issue alone, it's really more of Beast trying to figure out what is Mr. Sinister actually up to. Now, in our last video, we had saw Beast have a conversation with Sabretooth. Now, with that conversation, it was really more of Sabretooth telling Beast where he could possibly find Mr. Sinister at, because back in the Mutant Massacre, we had a new group called the Marauders, and for Sabretooth, he was part of that group, but that group worked for Mr. Sinister. And so for Beast, he realized that if he wants any type of information on Mr. Sinister, the best person to go to would be Sabretooth, because around his time in Marvel Comics, you had Charles Xavier believe that he has the ability to cure the mind of Sabretooth, to turn him into a better person. But either way, we're announcing the blue team of the X-Men going over to the base of Mr. Sinister. And so as we get into the opening pages for today's storyline, we do pick up with the blue team. Really, we pick up with Psylocke and also Gambit, as they had arrived at the old home of Cyclops. Now remember, for Cyclops growing up, he grew up in an orphanage. Now the Cyclops, he had no idea that the orphanage was being run by a character known as, well, Mr. Sinister. You see, on the top level, it looked like a regular day orphanage, but underneath it, he had a laboratory where he was doing all these different kinds of experiments. But either way, for our heroes, they realize that if they want to get any information out of Mr. Sinister, they have to go to his base. And currently his base is underneath the orphanage. And so you have Gambit and also Psylocke go in first. And being able to find the secret passageway into the lab of Mr. Sinister. Now for our young heroes, as they go inside to confirm that they found the laboratory that belongs to Mr. Sinister, they don't realize they're being watched by somebody. Now at first, I kind of thought like maybe it was him, Mr. Sinister, watching over our two heroes, but it's not. Instead, it's a character known as Riptide. Now we have not seen Riptide in a very long time. And the reason why? Because he died back in the Mutant Massacre. Colossus had killed him. And so right now the question is, how in the world is he here right now alive? Now for Psylocke, with her now being back to full power because Kawana is dead, she tries her best to read the mind of Riptide. But the problem is she realized that his mind is just a blank slate. There's nothing going on up there except to attack them. Now you do have Gambit and also Psylocke being able to work together to bring down Riptide. Now you do have Rogue go ahead and rush into the room because she thought that Gambit was in trouble. It's a way to remind us that these two characters are still madly in love with one another, but unfortunately they're kind of going through a rough path when it comes to their relationship. Now after you have Rogue arrive, you didn't have Psylocke realize that the projectiles that Riptide was throwing, they seem very organic. And that is also kind of weird as well, because for the original Riptide, it was not like that at all. Now for Gambit, he also realized that this is only the first level when it comes to the whole idea of the laboratory belonging to Sinister. There is a lower level. And so he's then able to find that other passageway that leads into that lower level. But as they get into the lower level, they're then confronted by a character we have not seen in a short period of time, and that would be Trinity. Now, when it comes to Trinity, she has the ability to absorb the energy of people who are dying. Now, here comes the big problem with that, because when we first saw her, she did not have control over her powers. So once she was able to absorb the energy of dying people, she was then able to release that energy as a destructive destructive blast. But that was a huge problem because she could not control it. Now, when we last saw her, we saw Beast give her over to Mr. Sinister because he believed that he could use her as a way to find other mutants around the world who were affected by the legacy virus. As we all know, the legacy virus is currently killing off mutants left and right across the board. But either way, he took her in. Now, after a while, we do see that apparently he was able to find a way to help her control her powers, but it does seem like she's hooked up to some kind of computer system that was created by Mr. Sinister. And we begin to learn that this computer system is more like a database that was created by Sinister. Now, with her being hooked up to the database, she's then able to learn a lot of different things about the world, but also Mr. Sinister. Now, for Rogue in the X-Men, they don't truly believe that Mr. Sinister would allow Trinity to just work so easily with his database. He must have some kind of failsafe to make sure that she's not able to learn anything he does not want her to learn. But she says, listen, he's too distracted right now with so many other projects, but on top of that, he's not around as he used to be. Now, with that being said, she also wanted to show the X-Men what she had learned while being here with Mr. Sinister. And so she shows them his, not database, but more of like his library of different mutants' genetic codes, but also his cloning bank as well, where he is able to create clones of different people. And so that explains why earlier, when it came to the X-Men, they fought against Riptide, who was somebody who died a while back in the Mutant Massacre, because that was a clone. Now, you do have Trinity tell the X-Men that if they have fought a clone of Riptide who was released immaturely, that means his partner clone, was also released as well. And that would be Sabretooth. Now again, this is just a clone of Sabretooth, but again, not a mature clone of Sabretooth. So Rogue was able to easily defeat this clone without any kind of problem. But after she does get rid of the clone, it begins to dissolve right in front of the X-Men. Now, you have Beast tell us that they came here to go into the lab of Mr. Sinister to hopefully see if he had any kind of information on the legacy virus. And that was truly it. But now this lab being here, you have Beast and the rest of the blue team kind of wondering, what in the world should they do with this lab? Should they go ahead and get rid of it? So while you have the X-Men trying to debate, you have Trinity say, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and decide for us. And so she hits a button that begins the self-destruct system. And so for the X-Men and her, they have to get the heck out of there. Now, luckily, they do. But now you have Beast wondering, will she be okay? Because he wants to bring her into the X-Men to protect her. But she says, no, I have to stay behind to continue to learn more about what Sinister is possibly up to. Now, for Beast, he says, listen, as soon as he comes back to see that his lab is gone, then most likely he'll kill you or do other things to you. But she says, listen, he's been gone for so long, he might not come back here for a few months. And that gives me enough time to hopefully collect more information about him to pass over to you. And so that really ends today's comic book video. And with that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, I'll see you on the next comic book video.